Welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Life Cooking. Today we are going to be making shakshuka. It is an African Middle Eastern dish. Start with a little olive oil in a pan that's been heating on medium-high heat. Get that oil heated just a bit. We're putting in you can use one medium onion. I actually don't really care for yellow onions, so I use shallots. And we have one bell pepper, de-seeded and diced. Give that a little stir, and we're going to let this cook for about 5 minutes or until the onions are translucent. All right, give that a nice little stir. Next, we're going to be adding 4 cloves of garlic that we've minced. And the reason you add the garlic after the 5 minutes is because you don't want garlic to burn. And then I'm going to add my seasoning. I've got a mixture of paprika, chili powder, and cumin in here. And then once I get all that in, mix that in. Oh my God, it smells so good. I'm going to let that cook for about 30 seconds to a minute. You definitely don't want it burning to the bottom. The next thing we're going to be adding is a can of peeled tomatoes that are whole tomatoes, 28-ounce can. And you want to pour the juice and everything in. Once you get that in, start breaking up your tomatoes. Ooh, that's a squirt one. I guess carefully. I've also used crushed tomatoes for this. Make sure you're scraping the bottom to get all that flavor. Turn my heat up just a little. I want to keep it on that medium high right now, hopefully without covering myself in tomato sauce. I'm probably going to let these cook a little before I break them down anymore. And then salt and pepper. This is going to simmer for 5 to 8 minutes. Just as it does, make sure you're getting those tomatoes really broken down into it. Okay, so I actually let this simmer for about 10 minutes. Normally, since we use the crushed tomatoes, they seem to cook down a lot quicker. These tomatoes were pretty tough that I got, and you really want everything to be incorporated like it is here. Another side note is our family is not a huge fan of bell peppers. And so when we made it this time, I was just tasting the sauce to make sure I've got my salt and pepper right. There is a very strong bell pepper flavor. So that is something that you could either cut by half, you could pre-roast the bell pepper. Personally, I would probably even, if I were just making this for me and my girls, I would leave out the bell pepper. My husband does like them, so maybe I would put in a quarter of a bell pepper or half of one. Just some things to where you can tweak it to how you like it. So the next step is going to be that we're going to create these little wells in the sauce. I've actually got it all the way down on low now. Still got a little simmer going on. And everywhere we're going to put an egg, we'll create this little divot. Although this is pretty saucy, so it's not creating much of one. When I use the crushed tomatoes, it seems to cook down a little, or be a little thicker. So I actually saw someone recommend using whole tomatoes, which is why I gave those a try this time. But I am just not a fan. So I'm going to make another divot here. The reason you're kind of making a divot is you want the egg to stay contained instead of climbing across the entire top of the dish. And just be very gentle as you crack the eggs in. This is traditionally often a dish that is for breakfast, but you can have this any time of day. Now, one of the ways we love to eat this is with some delicious sourdough bread. So I definitely recommend picking up a loaf of that. My husband is gluten-free, So sometimes we'll get some gluten-free bread that we can toast, or you can scoop up all the tomato goodness. You don't want your eggs to cook all the way through. You want that nice runniness in the center of the eggs. So once you're done, you're going to cover this. We're going to cook it for anywhere from 6 to 8 minutes. Could be as little as 5. You really want to watch it. Depends on the heat that you have on it, how thick, the type of pan that you're using. But you definitely don't want to get those cooked egg centers. You cover it, and I will just kind of keep an eye on it. All right, so this actually took about 10 minutes for us, but you can see that the insides of the eggs are still very underdone. We're going to throw a little bit of feta in here. This is one of those dishes you can have dairy-free if you wanted it. That on top, we're going to take a little bit of parsley, garnish it, and take the heat off. You don't want to overcook those eggs. And it is ready to dish up. All right, let's dish this up. Put this right on top of our sourdough. Make sure we get plenty of that tomato sauce. Oh, it looks so good. And there we have it. Shakshuka.